Welcome to Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Speaking of Patreons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon, so a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Michael Kahn, Sarah Griffiths, Rob H, Ben White, Maximum Gravy, Austin Whitsit, John Kays, Tommy Swagnett, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Will Brax, Mel B Styles, Troy Shuker, Bose Nail, Maris, Hairy Blade, Mobile Max 777, Neo the One, Lost Cat FE, Rob W, Open Minded, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Mike, Muted, Dick Earth Skeptic, Maria Neelands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, The Real Gabster, Liam Nedrick Jr., Abraham Mohammed, Adrian Quintana, Skeptic936, Life is Short, theflatearthchannel.com, and David Wayne Foster. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
Well, we already said hi to Neil. He was already here. We haven't said hello to you, though. Hello, Nathan.
Hello. How's it going in there?
It's going. I kind of got up a little bit late.
It's going just terrible, but thanks for asking.
Going terrible, Steve. Why is that?
I was just trying to give you a little. It's kind of slow this morning.
Okay.
I was just kidding.
Well, tell him what happened Saturday. Nathan, there was a guy Saturday.
I was trying to remember who it was so I could get the whole story. But I can't remember what the name was. I remember you were in here, and I can't remember. God damn.
Speak the truth or no. He was talking to him.
Can you give me a vague idea about what it's about?
Oh, Neil was in here arguing, or not arguing, but with somebody. Just a standard.
No, I just gave him a
Baller.
question. Speak the
Yeah.
Truth was talking to him more, so he knows what he was claiming. Something about they decide what direction is up, down, left, or right.
Who was it?
Forgot his name. But anyway, I asked him, I said, can you prove the earth is round or flat through the scientific method? I set him up, basically.
What a lovely story. I'm so glad you told me. Causing a bit of
Well, he
feedback there.
said he could. So that tells me right there we're talking to a dingbat. Because it falls outside of the scientific method, correct?
A cause and effect relationship.
Exactly.
Good morning.
Hey, 10th.
I don't know anybody in my field who uses the that thing.
We got you.
Michio Kaku.
And by the way, the first 5 housekeeping questions have been sent to Neil deGrasse Tyson. I will give you an update as soon as he responds, if he responds.
Okie dokie. That's good to know. I will wait with bated breath for Neil deGrasse Tyson's response.
We're going to get him in here, Nathan, no matter what you think. So you just better be on your game when he does show up.
Okay. In your fantasy world, Neil deGrasse Tyson's turning up to Flat Earth Debate, is he? Okay.
That's correct. He will be here.
If I'm given the chance to talk to him, I'm going to ask him about the football.
Listen, I made him an offer he can't refuse.
What he's going to say about
Nathan,
the football is, he'll just repeat his claim. Now, it's going to be difficult to repeat that claim when you've got us saying, well, if Earth turns underneath your football, Mr. deGrasse Tyson, then Earth turns underneath this aeroplane that's on screen for us to observe it drifting, because it's from the ground that you'd observe it drift as soon as it leaves, according to your claim. Well, flight times would be shortened. What's he going to do then?
That's
He
why I
can't
want to ask
be
you.
in that position. That's my point. He can't be in that position.
Yeah, you're right. I got a slide for you from another caller in response to dip or not to dip. That is the correction. Tell me when you got it showing. Master B.
Up, it just looks a bit messy. I'll sort it out while you're telling us.
Okay, so it's funny when you go back and read the comments. So there's live chat comments, and then there's comments on the YouTube channel. These are from the comments of the YouTube channel. So from Stunning Cosmos. 10th man incredibly doesn't understand that subtracting the dip from the sextant angle reading results in elevation angle to the star from the eye level, or in parentheses, horizontal plane, at the observer. He still thinks it brings the reading down to the surface, LOL.
Trying to navigate the surface, though. I mean, are these people really stupid? Do they forget the whole point of what you're doing?
Well, if it was possible, see, this was the beauty of the sextant trap with the horizon being used versus when you go to an artificial horizon, which is, again, not the horizon. It's an artificial horizon, or a bubble section, which is another artificial horizon. The variance is when you use the actual horizon. If you could have a horizontal eye line from whatever height you are above the ocean, and it could be flat, then that would work, because that's how the artificial horizon works and the bubble section works. But you can't keep the bubble steady on the boat, and you can't use the artificial horizon on the boat because it's tossing and turning. So the only thing stable is the actual horizon. So when you shoot the actual horizon, the sailor's above the water level, but he wants to mirror, in a sense, what he could do on land or with a bubble section. So a true horizon would be his eye line straight out. But since he's looking down at the horizon because he's 14 feet up, he's got to go down with dip correction to use that reading to have the same as if he did it through his eyes. I mean, these people are stupid.
It's obvious to a duck. I don't know what the dilemma is.
I mean, he doesn't understand that the whole presentation was about using your eye and the true horizon and taking no dip. So in the ocean, when you take dip, it's just saying that's what you have to do there to get the same thing. And here he says, he still thinks it brings the reading down to the surface. Well, just every book on the subject says that. I didn't say it. I posted every citation. So when he says I said, no, I quoted his books.
These people just blurt out what their instinct tells them to say. If you say it's supposed to be brought down to the ground, you, the flat earther, then that must be wrong. So you're not bringing it down to the ground, even though you're navigating on the ground. Just idiotic.
It's so much fun. The sextant trap, it works so good. And it's not even over yet. They're falling into more. They don't even know it. But this one was the one I was waiting for. Because to dip and not to dip, that is the correction. That right there alone destroys their whole concept of it.
Right.
Nathan hit it right in the head. They look at us like we're stupid flat earthers. You're right, Nathan.
Did you see my Plato quote?
No.
Those who are able to see beyond the shadows and lies of their culture will never be understood, let alone believed by the masses. Plato.
Very nice.
That ruins my dream.
Very nice.
I got it for you, Neil.
Perfect. Let's frame it and send it to him. Look, you're not going to convince everybody. That's not our job. Our job is to put out the facts and be honest in our reporting.
In some ways, the show relies on everyone not finding out, in a way. I'm not doing the old validation boy, I want to keep it my secret so I'm special kind of vibe. I'm just saying that the reason I picked the show is because my anticipation is that it's not going to be an overnight thing, contrary to what some of the people on our own side believe about this subject. I don't think overnight it's going to just spread throughout the Western world. So therefore, there's longevity in the show. Now, as we discussed yesterday, being on the side of truth means that literally during yesterday's show I can sit a painted diffuser that's come as a Christmas present, because I'm not in the slightest bit stressed about the subject matter. Now, our opponents, on the other hand, they don't have longevity in the subject. They might think they've got longevity in the subject, but they've got two conditions. One, their own mental stability, when they're bracing against things that they cannot defeat. And two, their symbiotic relationship with us. Now, our relationship isn't symbiotic with the anti-flat earthers. It's using or utilising the Western world religion in a ball. Not the anti-flat earthers trying to defeat our defeat of the ball. So they've got two things that they absolutely need. They need to keep sane and they need us to be around. Me? I don't need anything. So long as the Western world believes they're on a sphere, my show will have a future.
Agreed.
The moment it's accepted as obvious, like a lot of things that are braced against, once it's just accepted by the masses as always being known, and that was obviously always the case, we all really knew that, when it gets to that stage, it's the end of the debate, isn't it? Vehemently opposed, ridiculed, and then accepted as though it was true all along. That's the natural progression of things. Now, in the case of something that's obvious and observable, like the nature of the reality that we're faced with, you have to dig a bit deeper because you go, well, why would anybody want to perpetrate such a deception? Well, control, like with everything. So there's going to be something in our way, something bracing against us. But does it matter? Do I feel like I'm up against a brick wall? No, because I haven't got the same attitude as Neil. No offence, Neil. I don't feel like I'm trying to push the mountain out of the way.
No, this is never going to end your show because you have humans. I mean, humans to the end will still keep a belief system irrespective of the facts. So I don't think, I mean, we could be winning 99-0 and there'll still be people saying, no, you're not winning. So, hey, I pulled up a little description of dip. So this is from Nautical Information. The next correction is called dip. It is the angle by which the true horizon differs from the horizon at the eye of the observer, so it depends on the height of the observer's eye from the sea level. Since the angle measured from the eye above the surface of the Earth is always greater than that which would have been observed from sea level, the dip correction is always negative. The dip correction table is found inside the front cover of the Nautical Almanac with a shortened version inside the back cover. You can't say it any better. I mean, you can't. I mean, these people are just certifiable.
Confirms the need
Certifiable,
for a
Clint?
flat baseline.
Hey, hey.
I'm
To
asking.
what degree of dishonor?
I've been asking.
I'm glad you're adjacent to me, John.
When people come,
Yeah.
when people come to the comment section, John, and say, you haven't addressed this, that, and the other about the sextant, I just ask them that question. It's a great question, well formulated, easy to remember, easy to parrot off when someone starts talking about tangent planes or anything of that nature. How'd you get an elevation angle if you're using a curved adjacent?
Yep. It's over.
It is over. That's all I'm interested in. Anybody watching this after the fact? If you're one of the people I've poked recently, that's all I'm interested in. How'd you get an elevation angle if you're using a curved adjacent?
Can I dovetail off that?
Yeah, unless QE wants to add something to that.
No, I'm add to his.
Was there anything you wanted to add to that, QE? Or is that it?
No, that's pretty much it. And 10th man confirmed. You know, the dip correction confirms that you need a flat level adjacent. It's over.
Yes, and that's exactly the dovetail coming in, which is the reason it's not included in the artificial horizon or the bubble section is because you already have a baseline straight adjacent. You don't have anything to dip to.
Bundy's know everything other than geometry. Like, honestly, watching one of Whitsitt and Kai's debates on Modern Day Debates. And he knows the earth is not flat for sure. And he knows that it's impossible for everyone to have been lied to, even though we don't say that everyone's being lied to. It's just a lot of people are ignorant. But when he got to the 3 questions about navigation, mums was the word. They didn't have anything to offer. So you know everything and yet nothing all at the same time. It's insane.
Yeah, Whitsitt gave it to him. Whitsitt and Kai gave it to him right at the end, right? The 3 questions, right? They should have did it in the beginning.
Oh, that's
Well, it was good
hold on,
because it
that's
ended
music
with
to my
them-
ears. Hold on, Whitsitt's like, you know, not a separate group, but it's not one of us if you want to look at it in those terms, right? Whitsitt's somebody else using this argument. That's glorious. Tell me more.
Yeah, I ran into Whitsitt a couple days prior on 24/7, and I said, "Hey, check this argument, man." And he goes, "Love it." So he put it to the numpty dipshits. I don't know who they were. Some fat ass numpty and some chick. I think she was a dude, but put it to him, and they were but it was at the end. He just squeezed it in right at the end because they wrapped up the debate rather quickly.
He put it to a chick. You think she was a dude. How very baller of you.
I thought she was very adorable. She'll be a flat earther in no time. Because she kind of, it's
hello.
kind of like she was.
Hello. Do we have to talk
Wait
about
a
this?
second,
I'm sure
Eli.
she was a lovely fella. Let's move on to the actual argument.
That's
Nah,
what I'm trying to do.
Just struck me
So
that way.
basically, she was actually a true globe earther, I think, because she was trying to stick to the rhetoric of the current paradigm. And the other opponent on her team was just like, what the hell are you doing?
Oh, was
Yeah,
a
that's true.
was a teammate an anti-flat earther?
Yes,
Yes.
Oh dear.
and a retard.
Oh, that sounds great
and
fun.
And the
gotta
serious
hear
retard. I mean, this guy was your typical tard fur.
Is this recorded? Because I got to hear this anti-flat earther Glober going.
Yes, Modern Day Debates. Check them out. I mean, they're a huge channel. So
Yeah, it's really stupid. It's not actually a debate, right? So, but Kai and Whitsitt was on there the other night.
Remind me who Kai
I
is.
don't have the
who's,
link.
who's Kai? I do know vaguely.
She's part of 24/7. She's Whitsitt's girlfriend.
Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Can you imagine being the host? We're going to have an anti-flat earther and a Glober taking each other on, and together taking on flat earthers.
It was pretty
We're gonna
stupid.
have-
If you listen to it, you're like, what? You'd be like, what the hell? This guy, this fat ass, Mr. Fat Ass, Mr. Funny Man, always smiling and shit. His points were that of that of a clumsy child, but he thinks he's an intellectual. You know, the typical fuckwit. You know the routine.
Is this one of those where you see the people's face while they're debating?
yeah.
So when
He-
Winston asked that question, what was the face of the two people like?
Well, mums was the word. They didn't know what to because they're so used to having specific points. They had no idea how to deal with the questions he raised.
I've
They
had
didn't
several-
even try to answer it, so he answered for them.
They don't understand how to get around the argument because there's a normal run of things, isn't there? Beg the question at the Earth's a sphere, move on from there is the normal order of things when they're rinsing and repeating. So how do they get around the fact that they've got to start with this sphere not even being considered to measure the angle? How do they get around that? They don't. So they've all had brain freeze. They don't know what to do. Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, Eli, Brian's Logic, 10th Man, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Morning, morning.
Hey, good morning.
How are you?
Me, I'm fabulous, wonderful, couldn't be better. Not mainly due to the new housekeeping question, but that is very exciting because it gives me an opportunity to point out how stress-free it is arguing this subject. As a flat earther, when you're on the side of truth, you don't tend to have to concern yourself too much about anything. I know I showed a Plato quote before we started the live show, but there was another one, I can't remember exactly, but words to the effect of, if you tell the truth, you never have to remember anything. There's no need to remember stuff. Whereas if you're in a web of deceit, you've got to remember all the little facets of that lie and that deception and the double-speak rhetoric that goes around it when it's called. You don't have to do any of that on our side of this argument. There's nothing to remember. Understanding certain arguments is not the same as remembering a double-speak rhetoric. For example, understanding that it's claimed Earth turns underneath stuff, but simultaneously knowing how to deny that it doesn't and why you wouldn't expect to see it. You know, that sort of lie, that's going to fries your brains, leave you mentally exhausted, and it won't give the people who are on the anti-flat Earth side of this discussion any longevity in the subject on this platform. As far as I'm concerned, they'll burn out. They're starting to show signs of it already. It's not even been that long.
Well, if they can further develop on top of that, and it's going to be harder and harder, the more complications they draw, the more switcheroos of real things they insert, the tougher it will be to keep building on top of that. So yeah, they
Exactly.
will burn out because of that.
Like a business, you want to grow. Now, if you're doing something that's particularly evergreen and mundane, i.e. it's the same thing over and over again, anybody who's a good business person will try and inject new life into that, try and make it exciting, turn it into something new, market it in a different way, those sorts of things. Well, most people want to progress. They want to expand their understanding of things and maybe use them to progress their understanding of other things. Now, if you're on a globe and that is your paradigm, there is not only a limit to what you can understand and learn about that, because the set-in-stone rhetoric, like it or lump it, but you also find that if you do investigate further, you don't come across new information, you come across us. So you don't find that you're trying to expand your knowledge of how to demonstrate the Earth's sphericity. You find yourself challenging flat earthers and coming up with anti-flat Earth rhetoric. Well, that's not expanding your knowledge base. It's not fulfilling in any way. Now, while I might not have an answer to why the sky is blue at this stage of the discussion, there's the possibility that I might expand my information. There's the true excitement of going forth not knowing what those things are. Now, if you've got a heliocentric rhetoric for why the sky is blue with the light scattering, that's the end of the road. And if you want to go, well, let's see if I can figure out anything more about that particular aspect of our nature, you can't if you're on a ball. That's it. Now, which would you prefer? One that leaves you at a dead end with nothing but rhetoric, and then if you try and find your way through the dead end, you find your way to flat earthers telling you how wrong it all is? Or would you rather be on this side of the argument where, no, you've got less information, you're far more ignorant about the world that you live in, but there's a world of possibility ahead of you, And no need to lie, no need to concern yourself with the stories and doublespeak you've spoken in the past.
Well, here's what happens when you lie. Shakespeare said, "Oh, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive." So that is true what you said, Nathan. When you're in truth, you don't have to remember anything.
Precisely. Speaking of truth, any evidence you can have a curved adjacent when acquiring an elevation angle?
Not geometrically.
Let's stress the importance, because it's such a new question and we haven't done it enough. Essentially, the housekeeping question that's just been introduced, any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle, is the annihilation of a claim that you can do any measurements to do any movements around the surface of a globe Earth. You can't. You need a flat plane to measure an angle. Nobody's addressed this. Kiwi came in the pre-show, which is unusual for him, just to ask us, has anybody actually addressed how you can have a curved adjacent? And the answer is no. And that's all I'm interested in. You're one of the people I've recently poked. I said the same in the pre-show. All I'm interested in is knowing how you can have a curved adjacent. That's it. Anything else surplus to that is just irrelevant. I couldn't care less. Your personal attacks on me, same implies that's always been the case. But that's the only part of the subject we're interested in. You think you've got a curved Earth beneath your feet. You think you can never see anything other than bendy lines, and that screws up your angle measurements if you're going to assert them. You can't do them anymore. You couldn't do them to begin with. You can't have a curved adjacent. Shout out to Uncle Ben, one of my latest members. He says, song recommendation. Oh, I haven't set up this part of my screen. Got my projector back though, so I can actually read it. Song recommendation for Neil. High Hopes by Paolo Nutini. I've seen that live.
No, by Frank Sinatra.
It's too baller for that, I'm afraid, Uncle Ben. I've seen Paolo Nutini live several times though. I won't sing Coming Up Easy for you. Anyway, any evidence of Earth curve? Physical geometric spheroid horizons?
You're going to need R for that.
As we discussed it a moment ago, any evidence you can have, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
We wouldn't expect to see Coriolis deviation on a spinning ball Earth.
Said the anti-flat earther when the globe claims there's 15 degrees an hour drift as Earth turns underneath.
We just don't agree with that.
Sorry, it happens at football games.
It doesn't happen at football games. That's where the confusion begins. Anti-flat earthers say no drift to see, wouldn't expect to see drift. Why would you, flat earther, expect to see drift? Response, because the globe claims there's 15 degrees an hour drift. Neil deGrasse Tyson claims it. Well, says the flat earther, no, Neil deGrasse Tyson's an idiot, he doesn't know what he's talking about. They throw him under the bus, because we're showing how there's no drift. And the globe claims there's drift. That's the end of the argument. But they've got to do something. So they say, you know that globe claim of drift at 15 degrees an hour? We wouldn't expect to see that. That's what our response is. That's what we get told in response to us pointing out where we don't have drift and the consequences of Earth turning beneath things to cause drift in the form of shortened flight times and drones drifting away from you at whatever rate the globes claim to turn underneath them. Things that don't happen. So, when we point out they don't happen, we're told we wouldn't expect them to happen, as the globe has claimed they would. Anyway, any evidence for the...
Hashtag thanks, Dan.
Well, that was the whole point of the pre-show, right? Where you have an anti-flat earther debating, a glober debating, and a flat earther debating. And when it comes to this question specifically, the anti-flat earther would say, we don't expect to see drift. And the glober would say, wait a minute, that's one of my key points.
Nuts. But that's why I said at the beginning of the show that it's cognitively painful to argue as a baller. Because you're not a baller. The moment you find yourself to this arena, you've realised there's a dead end in terms of exploration of the globe. And when you've dug a little bit more, you've found us on the other side of that wall. And you're trying to cement it back up again and fill the holes. It's tough luck. We're there whether you like it or not. And it's not more globe info that you're going to find. And if you want it, you've got to go to the priests. You've got to go to NASA and listen to what they say when they make up their stories. That's the best you can get. Their stories of a place you can't visit.
You
That
know
would be
what
the
was
sky
so
vacuum.
refreshing?
Go on, Eli.
Because a lot of these points, the globe earther, not the anti-flat earther, on the modern day debates with Whitson and Kai, whenever a point like this would come up about NASA or one of their theories, they even said pseudoscience, and she said, yeah. And she says, I can understand why some of these arguments aren't satisfying, and it's okay if you don't go with it. I was like, whose side are you on?
So let me get it straight. The
That's what a
moderator's
globe
telling
earther
the
would say.
globe believer with anti-flat earth compadre that it's okay if they don't utilise things like arguments that use a sky vacuum. It's cool, that's okay.
No, not the moderator. The globe earther said that. The female.
What? Sorry, run that
Yeah.
by me again. The person on the debate for the globe said that.
Yeah, she said it's okay if you some of the things that she proposed that you don't accept. Like she could understand why you wouldn't accept it. You got to watch that debate, man. It's pretty interesting because it's the one of the first times I've seen a globe earther who actually knows what they're talking about as far as the paradigm, as far as what they actually do, for work. So.
Well, speaking of sky vacuums and such, any evidence you can have gas pressure without a container?
Yeah, I'd like to pivot back. I wouldn't go that far. With Mrs. Globe Earther, right? She made one concession that wasn't actually a concession with the vacuum of space, but I wouldn't go as far to say how did you put it?
Me or who are you talking to?
Me, I guess. She did at one point. I felt like the gist of what she was saying was, it's all right if you don't accept some of these concepts. She was like talking to the broader debate, not just one point when she said that.
Yeah, well, I think that some of the stuff she was like pulling it out her ass. I watched the debate.
So when she said that, wasn't it about gas pressure when they brought up the fact that her name was like Entropy or something like that?
Yes.
That's when they started wailing on her.
Yeah. So she made a slight concession there.
So she made a mild concession as a glober and then was pounced upon by her own side.
I don't think anyone reacted to that specific point. I'd have to rewatch it.
Okay, sounds interesting. In case anybody watching is thinking, why is this event worthy? Because a concession, even a mild half concession, is so unheard of from our opponents. It's a very rare event. Cognitively, it's too difficult for them.
Yeah, and that is so true because they'd rather just deny things that have persistently happening and that they've been doing for years. They'd rather just deny it from a certain point on than to actually concede that they were wrong. Like we never claimed the geometric horizon. They're still doubling down.
They see us as monkeys, so they're entering a poker game with a monkey. And in their mind, there's no way this monkey's going to win the poker game. And when the poker game's won by the monkey, they turn the tables over and go, you're just a stupid monkey.
Those are just cheap guerrilla tactics.
Can someone tell me the new housekeeping question? Exactly how it's written?
Sure. Any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle?
Thank you.
The elevation angle's your flat baseline along the ground that you're getting the angle from. It's the first straight line. That cannot be curved. For the audience's benefit, in case you're wondering the logic behind this question.
Well, it's on its way to Neil deGrasse.
Oh, I see.
You guys are becoming chummy friends, it seems like.
Neil's new pen pal's Neil deGrasse Tyson. Any evidence
Don't
of it?
mock my dream.
Nobody was mocking you. Nobody once mocked you about this, Neil.
Are you besties yet?
Now someone's mocking you.
No, but they're on the first name basis.
I figure I got leverage with the name. Maybe he'll answer me.
You think he'll kneel to your commands?
He better kneel and pray because his whole world is about to come crumbling down.
Got people, he'll be kept clear of us. Like I say, the only way this works is if there are two different types of people fighting for the globe. Anti-flat earthers who tell us you wouldn't expect to see drift. And globers, Neil deGrasse Tyson, saying we expect to see 15 degrees an hour drift. Now you need the buffer of us in between those two people so that we are the ones challenged when we say there is no drift, here's an example, and use Neil deGrasse Tyson as a hostile witness. Now, you can't have that hostile witness actually confront the people who are using him as a hostile witness, us. Because what's going to happen? We're using him as our example. The globe claims 15 degrees an hour drift. Now, the ploy by the anti-flat earthers is to just deny the claim in the first instance. We wouldn't expect to see drift. Again, shout out to Simon Dan. Reverse the burden. Tell the flat earther, as an anti-flat earther, this is Simon Dan, why would you expect to see drift? Show an example of someone not drifting. And say, there you go. There's an example of someone not demonstrating the 15 degrees an hour deviation the globe claims. But put that burden onto the flat earther. That only works if they're not making the claim that there is drift, like Neil deGrasse Tyson's making. So they've got to have two separate camps. Can't have Neil deGrasse Tyson come across our way. It ruins the whole thing, because he can't double-speak his way around it. I see, Mr. deGrasse Tyson, correct me if I'm wrong if I summarise your claim made to that lovely lady on that television show. The Earth turned underneath the ball then. Oh, yes, that's how Coriolis works. Second reference frame. Earth turned underneath from the stands, ball drifted through the goal. That shortened flight times, because if there's a blimp film in the game, Earth turns underneath that too. It just have to hover and wait for a different country to come to it at 15 degrees an hour. Doesn't happen, Mr. Tyson. What have you got to say about the items in the air for a substantial period, unlike the ball, that don't drift? Where's he going to go? We wouldn't expect to see drift. He'll never say that.
No, his reason for not debating any of us is we have too much charisma.
Pure projection. He relies on his charisma to tell things like drift, which we don't see. Look at the waistcoat, shiny, shiny.
Yeah, he's got that fancy tie, and he drops a mic. I would never drop a mic. That's too expensive of an item to drop.
It was okay. It was an SM58. You could run over that thing with a tank.
Of course you would know.
Listen, you're missing it. If you put him against a wall and he's got nowhere else to go, he's going to have to respond.
No, he doesn't. I've just explained how they keep... I'll start again. He's got people that are organising who he speaks to, when he speaks to them, why he's speaking to them, what's going to be said. Well, that doesn't include us, Neil. In any way, shape or form. He doesn't have to address something. That's far from the case. No, he doesn't have to address something. He'll be precluded from addressing anything we say ever. Anti-flat earthers, they're the ones charged with doing that for free. Defend the globe claim that doesn't make sense. Go and figure it out on your own. You want to keep hold of this faith in a globe, so go and figure out how you can address the fact we don't see drift. And what did they come up with? The anti-flat earthers? We wouldn't expect to see the claim Neil deGrasse Tyson's making of drift. That's what they came up with. Gas don't go down, go boom boom. My wife gets mad when she smells my farts. Science, says Roy Stimaz. Okay, well, thank you very much. It is a gas example. It's definitely natural. I'll give you that. But thanks all the same for the super chat.
You know, we're the ones that enjoy the hostile witnesses, subject matter experts like Andrew Thomas Young and Neil deGrasse Tyson. We get to use them from both sides. The people on the other side are mad that he said that. We say, oh, good, we'll use that.
No, the tactic from our opposition is to hand wave away every time we bring one of their high priests into it. So whether it be Brian Cox or Neil deGrasse Tyson or whoever, as soon as we quote them, they hand wave that away. And the whole idea is to stop us bringing them up. It's a wear down tactic. That's all it is. It's to stop us from bringing quotes from George Musser, Brian Cox, Neil deGrasse Tyson, whoever. All these kind of people who are well-known PhD astrophysicists and whatever else. And the whole thing with our opposition is to make it so it's pointless to bring those quotes up because they just don't address them. And it does work for them up to a point. So the thing to do is never stop bringing those quotes up and get more and more and more of those quotes. No, because they want you to stop bringing them up. Because then that's going against the narrative that they're trying to push, which is anti-flat earth narrative. It's not globe narrative then.
Well, speaking of Cox and Musa, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Well, isn't there Professor Verlander who said gravity's not a force, shouted from the rooftops?
There is no scientific evidence for gravity, and there can't be. There can't be scientific evidence for gravity. It doesn't exist. So if it existed, there already would be a long time ago.
Mind to be here or be sphere on the Quantum Eraser YouTube channel this Saturday, as we'll be continuing our discussion in regards to science, which for me at least was one of the starting points to feel like as a flat earther I was winning the argument. A good grounding in science. So be here or be sphere on Quantum Eraser YouTube channel for Ball Busters. That's 7 p.m. UK time, 3 p.m. Eastern.
Are you sure? Because the last time you said that.
Hold on, Neil's
I
decided
thought you were going to shout out my show for today.
Am I on that show?
If you want to be.
Last time you said that, Nathan, I sat there on a Saturday entertaining somebody, waiting for Ball Busters to start, and it never started.
Fortnightly. My bad. Last week I thought there was a show and there wasn't.
What about today's show? So QE Live today? Yeah, we got an open panel again. Never know which way that's going to go. And then we have Mr. Not Point 6. So if you want to find out who that is, you're not going to believe it. So tune in today, 2 p.m. U.S. Central, 8 p.m. UK. Thanks.
Is it 8? Start time's 8 now. I said 7. Okay, 7 p.m. UK time. Same goes for Ball Busters.
7 p.m.
8 p.m. UK time.
My bad.
It's 8 p.m. UK.
Okay. Easy now. Any
He's
single
doing it
viable
deliberately.
Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Never happened. Has never happened.
It's on the same theme. So good understanding in science will leave you grounded with the safe assurance that anything claimed to be science from the globe side, and I do mean anything claimed to be science, will have absolutely no scientific validity whatsoever when it comes to proving the heliocentric model, sphere, Earth, sky vacuum, anything to do with the worldview that you're on a sphere. They don't have any science. None. Zero. Nada. They don't have science for the globe. Considering back in 2015, 2014, we were told the whole body of science proves we're on a sphere, we're now being told science doesn't prove anything by the same exact people.
Well, just to answer the question, no, there can't be scientific evidence or scientific hypothesis from any of those fields because they can't manipulate their independent variable. That means they can't do an experiment. So an hypothesis is pointless, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. So yes, you're correct, because they won't be able to vary the independent variable. That would be the thing they assume causes the effect they're observing, and they've got plenty of effects to observe. But we're not asking them to get to that stage, which is why I say no. They don't have to actually do any experimentation, but when they formulate a hypothesis, the independent variable will definitely have to be the presumed cause of the effect that they're observing. It will definitely need to be capable of manipulation, and it'll definitely need to be the cause in their hypothesis. So, you know, and real. Let's not forget real. I don't want any gravity in there.
That's the problem. Yeah, but see, this is the thing. Like, I mean, I was always under the impression that a hypothesis was, the idea of a hypothesis was to put it through a hypothesis test. Because otherwise, it's not a real hypothesis. I don't see it as a real hypothesis. Because it could be anything then. As you said, that's exactly what I was going to say. They could say gravity causes something, and that's the end of that. They don't have to test it.
Yeah. By asking that question, you've spotted the genius of QE's phraseology. Yeah, that's right. So before you don't set the standard too high. You don't want to scare them. So you say, give us a valid hypothesis. Well, if they give you something that's got gravity in it, you go, okay, well, the independent variable's not real if it's being used as the IV. If it's the DV, where do you observe it? So immediately, they haven't got a viable hypothesis. So off you go again, go and formulate another one and bring it back, and we'll have a look if that's viable. Now, that's the problem.
No, I'd hold them to... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in on the end of your sentence. I would hold them to the highest standard, because they're claiming all kinds of stuff. I would hold them right up there, that their hypothesis has to be testable. And their independent variable must be manipulative.
Well, no, you're not wrong. You're understanding it. You're getting it. You're understanding it exactly. You don't need to ask them for the actual experiment, because as you're rightly pointing out, when you say things like, well, it has to be capable of actually being done. Yeah. That's included when you say any viable hypothesis. Obviously, you've got to be able to actualise it, but that comes under the viable hypothesis. Do you see how QE's phraseology is so perfect? And it doesn't scare them off at the same time. You don't need an experiment. We're not asking for that higher standard. Just viable hypothesis. What's that? Your independent variable's not real. Well, that's not viable then. Go and have another go.
Yeah, that QE guy is ace.
Yeah, I'd still hold him. It's not up to me, but if it was my choice, I would be wanting any hypothesis that's put forward in a scientific manner should have to be testable.
Yeah.
I mean, they should have to do a test with it. It's like that. Look, I understand by saying viable hypothesis. Yes, you totally have them, but I won't take any mercy on them, because they're claiming to be science. They're claiming to have all kinds of evidence. So I don't know.
You're right. That's why I said yes and no at the start. It's like, yes, you're absolutely correct, but all of your logic will start logically with the hypothesis intact and viable before you have to set out that higher standard and say, no, you're going to have to be able to verify it. Yeah, well, that means it's got to be viable. But they'll never get past the hypothesis stage. So while we could up the standard, it wouldn't actually change the standard if we said it must be capable of being put through the process. That's implied when you say viable.
Well, I suppose you'd end up having basically a debate with them about if they're going to use gravity as their independent variable. Then it would come down to, well, gravity, what's that? You know what I mean? Where was that shown to? Where's the hypothesis put forward from Isaac Newton or Albert Einstein for that? You know, who tested the hypothesis? Who put it forward? You know what I mean? So you'd end up talking. You probably would. That's probably where you go. You probably end up asking them for the hypothesis and the hypothesis test for gravity.
Consider who you're talking.
Hold on, just 1 second, 10th. Not necessarily. You just have to know the three things that it must fulfill to be an independent variable. You said independent as opposed to phenomena, which is fine. Well, if they're claiming gravity as an independent variable, first it's got to be the presumed cause of the effect that they're studying. So obviously that implies that you've got to then establish what the effect they're studying for gravity to be the cause of it. Yeah? Secondly, it's got to be capable of variation and manipulation by the researcher. Well, in this case, you say, well, show me gravity, and show me how you're going to vary and manipulate it. Yeah, and then I said earlier, it's got to be real. You know, that follows on. If you can't show me it, and you can't show me you varying and manipulating it, is it real? Well, the answer in this case is no. So again, not a viable hypothesis if IV gravity.
What about if they pulled a gravimeter out?
As a what? IV or DV? Hold on. Gravimeter, yeah, okay. Let's go with this. This man-made device. As IV or DV?
Well, I mean, if gravity is their IV, and they put a gravimeter out as a way of supposedly manipulating gravity, that's where.
Hold on, that sounds like a bait and switch.
You're going to end up in the weeds.
Hold on, that's a bait and switch. So unicorns are my DV, so I'm going to bring out a horse. No.
Well, I'm just saying that's where it's going to go. It's going to end up in the weeds. It's going to end up there. That's where I reckon it would end up.
No, that's fine.
Because
that's okay. Hold on. You've made that clear, Brian. That's where you reckon it'll go. Okay. So IV DV, that's independent variable which will be varied to manipulate and cause the DV, the effect. Well, DV, naturally occurring phenomena. So if you're saying DV gravity, so we've switched it, we're already convoluted because we're talking about gravity as both cause and effect in the last 3 minutes. But that's what happens with anti-flat earthers. It's not Brian's fault. But now we're at stage phenomena, DV, gravity. And Brian's saying, well, they'll just show a gravimeter. No. No. Don't show us a man-made device. Show us the natural phenomena of gravity, not the man-made device. Balls in sheds and gravimeters aren't gravity. The phenomena we need to see. So what's that?
Well, they'll drop their phone. That'll be what they'll do then.
I know, I drop a helium balloon. Woo, there it goes.
Well, I'm just saying that's where they're going to go. That's where they have to go. If you don't, my point being, I understand it, and you will end up with them looking silly either way. But if they are putting forward if you're asking for a viable hypothesis from any of those fields, I would. That's why I'm saying I'd also be asking for a viable hypothesis test of the, because they will go there. Now that's okay if you are happy with them going there, because they're going to go. Gravity caused it, and you ask them, well, gravity, what's that? You know what I mean? That's where you're going to go, and they'll go, look, my phone falls, and you go helium balloon or something. It's going to go down that road. I'm just saying it kind of moves it away from them. Not them having a viable hypothesis and hypothesis test. I would like to see them trying to put their hypothesis through a hypothesis test, which is scientific method.
I know, you can't get there. No. You're getting way ahead of yourself. First comes the hypothesis, though, doesn't it? So you'd like to see them put their hypothesis through the hypothesis test. What hypothesis? We've been asking for 2 years.
Yeah, but that's the beauty of it. It's like, I would like to see the mess they come up with. You know what I mean?
It being... Hold on, we're right there, 10th, we're right there. It being the hypothesis, Brian.
Yeah, I want them to come up with what they would think is a viable hypothesis.
So the question... So the question's perfectly phrased then.
Go on.
So it's a perfectly phrased question then.
Go on.
I said it's a perfectly phrased question then.
Yeah, but it depends on what they come up with. It would just be whatever they come up with, as far as what they would be calling a viable hypothesis and hypothesis test for something that they observe, for an effect they observe, like in the sky. It would be more damning, I would think damning, to see the rubbish they come up with. That would kill them.
Agreed.
So.
Agreed. I totally agree.
I'm just saying, yeah.
No, I agree. 10th has been trying to get a word in for the last 5 minutes, so go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, well, this is back to when you say no when you won. I mean, it's clear. You won. They're stuck. No need. Let them flounder and slip and fall and double speak and try to say the same thing 5 different ways, but still not make any sense. The audience realizes you won when you understand the scientific method, and they don't. So just accept your win.
Shout out to Ben White for smashing the super chat. It says, please share the show. I love it when people give me money to encourage the audience to make the audience bigger. Thank you so much, Ben White. I really do appreciate it. It gives me an opportunity to say, yes, indeed, 100 people plus watching. It'd be great if there was more. So please share the show. Smash the share button. It's the only reason people are here in the first place. So the only reason there is 100 people plus here is because people have shared the show. So those dedicated few that do share the show all the time, thank you very much indeed. But if you haven't done so already, please smash that share button. I think we're done with housekeeping. I think we covered everything. Distance to the CERN, Molten Iron Core. Did we cover Molten Iron Core today?
No, we haven't done that yet. I don't even think... Did we do Distance to the Sun? I didn't hear that one.
That's the two I think I forgot. So any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. No.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
No, we never dug down more than 8 miles.
To get to the sun? What kind of crazy speak is this?
No, to the molten iron core.
Of course. Yeah.
Sorry.
I'm just joking. Just having a bit of fun. Right, that does conclude the housekeeping. Good job.
Blue Marble Science made a video about me and the nautical mile issue. It's about 16 minutes long or something like that. And I haven't watched it. I shared it in the war room. I didn't watch it yet, but I said to him, I asked him, I said, would it be okay if Nathan played it? I was just saying you could play it if you wanted. It doesn't have to be in the live show, it could be in the after show, and we could listen to it and see what he has to say. I don't know how much stuff in there is going to be kind of a comedy or character assassination, whatever, but he has made a video on the subject of the nautical mile, and he has given me permission. He said he gave you permission to use away on his video. If you want to play it, he won't strike it. I asked him already. So if you're interested,
the guy that demonstrated gas pressure out of container, bringing containers.
Yes, that's Blue Marble Science. Yeah, Blue Marble Science.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm just saying, if you want to play it, you can play it in the after show if you want. We can listen to it. If you do, if you don't, no big deal.
Hillbilly blue balls.
How's it going? Go beyond subscribe. Click join. Through so much to get.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you're Brian's logic, there are really no known limits. Warning, severe derp dead ahead. You guys hang on.
Hello, how are you doing? This is going to be a quick video on the truth of what is a nautical mile. Because there's a lot of rubbish out there about them being connected to a globe earth, which is not true. Nothing to do with a globe earth whatsoever.
Actually,
he's full of shit.
Yes, he is, isn't he? Brian, a nautical mile is 1/5400th of the distance from either pole to the equator. It's 1/21,600th of the circumference of the Earth at the equator.
Can I address that?
Please.
Yeah. Well, for a start, he's after begging the question of a globe. That's the obvious one. But secondly, he's just talking about longitude line. He's just talking about an actual land or physical distance, land and sea distance along a longitude line. That's what he's talking about on the latitude and longitude grid. I mean, that means nothing. There is 60 nautical miles per degree and 60 minutes per degree. And those minutes are translated, those minutes are measured in the sky, along the sky, as degrees and minutes. And they are then translated or transferred to the surface of the Earth as nautical miles. My question is, and I don't know if he's answered it in this video because no one else has been able to answer it, is my main question is, what is the origin and purpose of the nautical mile? Because so far he's just told us at the very start there, he spoke about them being a distance along the surface of the Earth. But what has that got to do with the origin and purpose? The purpose is there's 60 of them per degree. So we measure degrees when we are looking at celestial objects. We measure in degrees and minutes of degrees and seconds of degrees. And they are then translated as a distance. So we use an elevation angle, which is 90-degree right angle. We use an elevation angle to a celestial object. And if we have a 40-degree angle for a celestial object above the horizon, then we know we have 50 degrees. That's 50 times 60 nautical, 50 times 60 nautical miles of a distance. So you're measuring a straight horizontal distance along the surface of the Earth, but you wouldn't have nautical miles. They wouldn't exist because there'd be no reason for them without minutes of degree. they just wouldn't exist. So
it's been that way for a long, long time.
What is a nautical mile? An angled sky measurement.
40 nautical surface miles from your position to the GP of the celestial object. Jeez.
So nautical miles have absolutely nothing to do with the surface of a globe Earth. They are a measurement of the sky, which are then translated onto the Earth's surface via the zeniths of the observer and chosen celestial object.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Surface-based measurement is done in statute miles. Statute miles are not a reference of or determined by the sky. Only nautical miles are a measurement of and determined by the sky. There is no such thing as a globe-based nautical mile. The word nautical is defined as of or concerning navigation, sailors, or the sea, maritime. The word nautical has no connection whatsoever with heliocentric belief or claims. There is no globe miles. Thank you.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Well, how are you doing? This is a follow-on from my earlier video about the nautical mile.
Know where Blue Marble's commentary is? Because otherwise we're just listening to you. No offence, Brian.
I don't. I didn't listen to the video. This is the problem. I didn't listen to the video. I was hoping to play it, and I was hoping he'd have Mohit to be saying more. But obviously, he's playing my videos, and he's kind of attacking them. But so far, I haven't heard anything from him. That so like this is it. You could even leave it at that. I don't like if it's not going to get any more exciting than that. But so far, I haven't heard any origin or purpose for the nautical mile. Like, why do we have nautical miles? What's the point of them? Do you know what I mean? We know the point of the statute miles, but why do we have nautical miles? Well, what seems to be the case is what they're doing on the globe side. All I've gotten is that a nautical mile is 1.151 times a statute mile, and that they can be converted into kilometers. It's like, who cares? What has that got to do with their origin and their purpose? They're only
a whopping 30,861 nautical miles. You guys can't explain this. But I got the perfect solution. Let the Earth be spherical. Let the light coming from Polaris be parallel at every point on Earth as we know it to be. Measure the angle to Polaris relative to our local zenith. And
yeah, you're going to need a flat plane for that. Angle? Yeah, you need a flat plane. Can't have a curved adjacent. You want to speak to that, Brian?
Not dead.
Yeah, you can't. To do what he's talking about is an elevation angle to Polaris. That requires a flat plane. You need a 90 degree angle. And if Polaris is 40 degree, as I said, just like earlier, if Polaris is 40 degrees above your local horizon, then that means it's 50 degrees of distance. Its GP is 50 degrees of distance, and you can only get that. You can only take that angle, and you can only get that distance, which is how they calculate the longitude lines. You can only get that by having a 90 degree right angle. You can't do it any other way. It needs a flat baseline, and that baseline, whether it be 1 minute of degree or 60 degrees from the GP of Polaris, it has to be straight, horizontal, and flat.
So yeah, without any effort, just scrolling through his video, he's starting to reference angles to Polaris. Well, you're going to need a flat Earth for that angle, Blue Marble. And clearly, this doesn't address the housekeeping question. We're asking how you can have that angle measurement effectively. The one you've just described in your video, well, we're addressing it, Blue. It knows how relaxed we are.
This is beautiful because a sextant is an angle measuring device, and they even say this. And then, of course, how you're going to have an angle with a curve adjacent. You can't. So it dies right from the get-go.
You didn't hear what he said. He said, let the Earth be a sphere.
Hold on. Let's just drag it out a little bit. Blue Marble has just described measuring an angle to Polaris. Our question, how'd you get that angle? I'll answer.
Precisely.
He needs a flat plane to get it. It's 2 straight lines from his elevation angle to Polaris. That's 2 straight lines on a flat baseline. That's a flat Earth that he needs to measure it. It's dead in the water. The moment he measured an angle to Polaris, he needed a flat plane to do it.
The minute they say angle, it's over. You caught it. That's the end of that. Yes, Neil, he started, and they all do, with begging the question, but that's irrespective of the fact that he still said angle. When he says angle, he's stuck to how angles are achieved.
Well, I agree. I know.
Okay, so you need a vertex. Argument's over. We win. It's done. It's nowhere to go.
I just find it funny how he said, let the Earth be a sphere.
His example's got a spherical Earth assumed, and he's talking about measuring an angle. Okay? Well, that angle needs a flat Earth. That's the end.
Can I just add on it that so far anyway, and I'm not expecting you to play any more of the video, but so far, like, I mean, the whole point of his video is that I'm stupid and I'm wrong. But so far I haven't heard the addressing of my question. What is the origin and purpose of the nautical mile? Like, I mean, I keep being told I'm wrong, right? They keep on telling me I'm wrong. And they're getting to the point where they're saying that the nautical mile and minutes of degree have no connection at all. A couple of them started telling me that. It's like, why does the nautical mile exist? And what determines it?
And Brian, you don't get to rewrite history to suit your narrative. The nautical mile...
As things have...
There's an ad at the moment. It's going to go into the juicy bit, of course.
Dividing the circumference of the Earth by 21,600 minutes of arc, which is one complete 360-degree circle. The statute mile comes from an act of Parliament.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, yeah, I just want to stop on that. Two things, right? First of all, the statute mile, and I'm going to come back to exactly what he said a second ago. The statute mile is a measurement in feet and inches along the surface of the Earth, right? What he just said is that it's 21,600 minutes of arc. So me saying that minutes of degree are nautical miles, he's basically agreeing with me there. But then he's begging the question with the word arc that it's making a circle or it's making a globe, right, whichever. But arc of what? Arc within the sextant. Because the sextant has an arc, right, that the index arm runs through. It's arc within the sextant.
Well, hold on. When you say arc that the index arm runs through, imagine a protractor and stick it on the flat baseline of the ground. There's your minutes and degrees. It's not coming from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth. It's working off a flat baseline. Now, he's extended it out to 360 degree. Yeah, but along the 180 line is the ground that you're standing on and measuring it. Yeah,
but this is the thing. But like their claims about the nautical mile is they're jumping on the word arc at the moment, in the past couple of days. But arc of what? Arc of what? Where is this curved spherical Earth? Where is this curved sky? It has nothing to do. Yeah, it's not.
It's the arc of the measuring tool. Now, if you want to say that means that the sky is suddenly dome-shaped, well, that you could, I suppose, argue you'd have a job here. But you could, I suppose, say that. It's got sod all to do with the ground. That's the flat baseline.
Precisely. The point is, the minute they mention angle, it's over because you need a flat baseline to get an angle.
It's full of shit.
And again, Brian, you don't get to rewrite history to suit your narrative. The nautical mile comes from dividing the circumference of the Earth by 21,600 minutes of arc, which is one complete 360-degree circle. The statute mile comes from an act of Parliament, defined as 8 furlongs, with a furlong being 40 poles and a pole containing 16.5 feet. That's 5,280 feet, decreed by the British Parliament.
Okay, Nathan, can I say something about that there?
Yeah. This is the point. That's what we're doing this for.
Yeah, thank you. It's like, but he's agreeing with me. He's not disagreeing. All he's doing is begging the question. So he's not disagreeing that, because he can't, because he knows it's correct, that nautical miles are minutes of arc. He's just begging the question that with the word arc, that it's becoming a 21,600 mile circle. And then he's stating that he's just giving the history of the statute mile, which is just the history version of me saying that it's the statute mile is feet and inches along the ground, or along the surface of the earth. He's not actually rebutting me. Go on. Other than begging the question. Go on.
Look, it's very simple. After you use the sextant, what do you minus the number from? 90. What's a 90?
A right angle.
Thank you. It's over. He can go into all this other stuff. And just like all the other ones, they want to go into the process. I don't want to get into the process, line of position, and all these different things, when I could kill it right on the get-go. The get-go is when I first use the sextant and I shoot the star at 50 degrees above the horizon, that leaves me 40 left over. 40 times 60, that's 2,400 miles from zenith distance to zenith distance. The zenith distance of the sun to the zenith distance of me, because I have my own GP on someplace on the earth, right? So guess what? I have to minus it from 90. What does 90 tell you right away? Curved baseline or flat baseline?
Flat baseline, parallel roof.
It's over.
Yeah.
Right there.
They have been led to believe that the nautical mile is something that it's not. Thanks for watching. Hopefully there won't be a fourth video.
Well, let's see if we can summarize this. Navigator miles is not a term referenced in any known form throughout all of history. That's something you just made up, Brian. Nautical miles are based on the circumference of the planet, and they have zippity-doo-dah to do with the sky. Statute miles are a legal distance essentially based on the length of the King of England's arm and the arbitrary definitions of a foot, a rod, and a furlong. And the fact that nautical miles and statute miles are only about 15% different in length is a pure coincidence. Does that...
1 second, Nathan. So he's after saying there that nautical miles have nothing to do with the sky, when earlier he said that 21,600 minutes of arc gives you 21,600 nautical miles. Like, where are you measuring these minutes of arc? What are you using to measure these things? You're using a sextant, and you're measuring along the sky. So you are measuring along the sky to give you your nautical miles. The whole point of my videos is that where did they come from? What is a nautical mile? A nautical mile is a sky mile. It's a navigator's minute. Right? I don't care if nobody ever said it before. That doesn't make it untrue. Doesn't make it incorrect. It's a navigator's minute. That's all it is. Navigators, when they're using a sextant, they use seconds and minutes of degrees. And that's what they use. And that's where nautical miles wouldn't exist if it wasn't for that. For minutes of degrees, they wouldn't exist at all. The whole point of them is
and those minutes are your protractor lying on the ground and the lines that come off it towards whatever you're looking at. That's what they are. They're not from the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth, and when Brian describes the movement of the arm on the sextant, it's moving along a protractor. That's what it's doing. And the lines that are drawn out to the positions that are running parallel, as 10th Man's just discussed, when you minus it from 90. That's two parallel, straight, flat lines to give you these two triangles sat on top of each other. That's what it is. So saying, well, you've got an arc measurement. Yeah, an arc on the protractor that's lying on the ground that you're measuring the line to the star with. Sod all to do with the ground. You could even argue sod all to do with the sky, just because you could draw those lines through an arc. Yeah, you can. That's fascinating. Doesn't change the fact that you're just measuring a line to an item in the sky versus a straight baseline. That's what you're doing. Let's just hear the last little bit of his summary, Brian, unless there was something else at this stage.
That pretty well sum it up. There you have it, folks. Brian's logic coming to a clown museum near you in the not too distant future. Hey, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed.
Just an ad hom to round out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I expected a lot of that in it. But look, it's like this, right? The minutes of degree gives you your nautical miles. The whole point of taking an angle to the celestial body, right, is that you're taking an elevation angle which requires a 90-degree Pythagorean right angle, right? And that requires a flat baseline because you're gaining a zenith distance to the GP of the star, or whatever luminary you're looking at, and that zenith distance is a straight line, a straight horizontal line. So what you're doing is you're counting the minutes along the sky, and then you're transferring them directly down as a straight line onto the surface of the Earth as another horizontal straight line. And when you do that, you don't call them minutes of degree anymore. You call them nautical miles. But nautical miles wouldn't exist without minutes of degree. And as I said earlier, the arc is the arc of the index arm running through on the sextant. I mean, it's just begging the question. So he hasn't actually addressed the videos.
Yeah,
he's actually agreed and begged
all
the
he's
question.
done is beg the question and taken the curve of the sextant when it's measuring those degrees you've just detailed and called that the Earth. So because the sextant's got an arc that it moves through as it measures the straight lines, that means the Earth is also an arc? No. How the hell are you getting to this begging the question fallacy? It makes absolutely no sense, especially when the measurement itself requires a flat baseline.
That's the point. We got to get back to the original claim, at least from my point of view, was I only made one claim. The sextant is an angle measuring device. Everyone is agreement on that on both sides, right? And you can't have a vertex, a corner, without two straight lines. You can't even get an angle without two straight lines. So it's over right at the inception. All this other talk is to take it away. We go back to the first question. How'd you get that angle again? What do you need for an angle? So you never got it off of a curved surface? Now you're trying to prove we're on a curved surface?
Well, look, this is the thing. This is why I brought up the nautical mile issue, because it's been claimed for a long time that the nautical mile is a proof of a globe and has some connection to a globe Earth. Where my videos are just pointing out the obvious. I'm not trying to rewrite history, but maybe I am. But I'm just detailing the reality of things. And if that rewrites history, then grand. But I'm not trying to do that. I never made claims of doing that. It's just there's a claim on the table that nautical miles are proof of a globe. And I'm showing how nautical miles are nothing more than minutes of degree. And
hey, I'm just going to I'll go on, sorry. Didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you'd finished. Go ahead.
No, that's it.
Okay, well, I'm just going to give my summary. So, in his description, when he begs the question of a sphere and puts it up for a few moments on his diagram, he's got a horizon line and an angle measurement to Polaris. This is the flat baseline he needs to measure this angle to Polaris. Now, our question is entirely about this angle that he has measured. Now, he's saying he's measuring it from his zenith. Yeah, that's an angle measurement in the sky that you minus from 90. So, how did you get this angle measurement to Polaris? To have an angle measurement, you needed this horizon line to be a flat Earth, not the sphere beneath. This has absolutely no correlation with the angle you're measuring against this line. So, Blue Marble, you need a flat line labelled horizon in your diagram with a sphere begging the question beneath it to measure the angle you asserted to Polaris. You proved the Earth was flat when you measured that angle to Polaris. Blue.
Somebody needs to send him our new housekeeping question.
No, he's got it in spades today, hasn't he?
Maybe if it's written out, he can understand it better.
Who, Blue Marble? If we say, how do you have gas pressure without a container, do you think if I'd have written it down, he wouldn't have turned up with 3 containers?
Yeah, that's true. Excuse me for hoping that there's hope in some logic that he has. I mean, what's his name? Loves him. He's a great guy. Kosho. That's Kosho's father.
Well, that's a different angle to look at it.
Got him on speed dial, right?
I think what it was is that I reckon why he did that video was someone had to address it on the globe side. And he decided he would do it because it had to be addressed by someone on their side that's well known.
But that's excuse me, Brian, but that's why the sextant trap is still continuing. We want them to make videos like this because his argument was dead from the beginning because he begged the question, and then you got to ask, where'd you get the angle? So I know it's about the nautical mile, but how do you get there first? You got to take an angle, degrees in the sky. It's an angle of the stars to the Earth with a sextant, and it's an angle measurement, and they have it in the degrees, minutes, and seconds so that you can pinpoint yourself over a coordinate system, just grid lines on the flat plane, longitude, latitude, just grid lines. And in between the grid of 60 and 61 is, guess what? 60 minutes. So you can say, I'm at 60 point blah, blah, blah. So pinpoint exactly where you are. That's all it is. But how'd you get the angle?
Measure the angle, you're going to need a flat plane. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the join button, all that good stuff. Once again, stay tuned if you're watching on a Premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!
Already have a bias, which is most people. He's given the impression that you don't know what you're talking about, getting ahead of the statements that you've already made to make people think, oh, I don't need to look into it because obviously these guys are so retarded. Thank you, Blue Marble. Appreciate you cutting my time in half, wasting trying to figure out what's going on here.
Yes, especially when he says they got it from planet Earth. They got it from planet Earth, Brian. What's wrong with you, Brian?
That's great. Yeah, no, his video, he agreed with me. Everything I was saying, the whole premise of my videos, he agreed, with the exception of one thing, and that is that he's saying it's a globe. That's the only difference. He's stating that it's a globe, but he's agreeing that nautical miles are minutes of degree, and he's agreeing that statute miles are a measure along the surface of the Earth. So they're two different things. You know, just because you have the word mile behind them doesn't mean that they're exactly the same. They are a measure of distance, but they're obtained in two different ways. So he just basically, made a video where he begged the question of a globe.
Brian, it's an act of parliament, Brian.
That's terrible. It's really good, though. It's funny because it's so bad.
Oh, he was in the YouTube chat just now, Blue Marble, calling you a coward.
You don't get to rewrite history, Brian.
Come in at any time and put his argument
here.
forth. We're cowards with an open door. Right, okay.
First of all, we had his son on here, and he didn't even come on to help out his son. So he's going to be a little chat skank. Come on the show, Blue Marble, or Hillbilly Blue Balls.
What's he calling me a coward or Nathan?
Who cares?
Probably you, Nathan.
Who cares?
Well, to be exactly, he said, play it from 6 minutes onwards, you cowards. That's what he said.
Oh, right. So let me get it straight. From the peanut gallery, he's decided how we'll present the information. Oh, right. No. You can come in and argue with us and put the information to us however you chose when there's an open door. Now, not knowing what the video is, having never watched it, I gave him the good grace to let his little echo chamber video get played here. Something I would never normally do, but I like Brian. Brian asked me to do it. I wouldn't do it because he's asking me. You've got to be kidding. So I'll do it at the best of my ability. I had no idea where to stop the video. I've done it to the best of my ability. Now there's an open bloody door. He could have come in and gone, can you just play it from 6 minutes, please? And I'd have gone, of course. No worries. Absolutely, if you've got it pre-prepared and it's already being played. Not unreasonable for me to skip to 6 minutes. But what, he wants to do it from the chat? Like some skank. No thanks, no. I played it because Brian asked me to, and I had no idea what I was clicking on. I had a guess where your summary would be and where your main point would be, because you're basically pretty predictable.
Well, all I'd say about it is I don't know what he'd have after 6 minutes that's going to be any different than what was in it beforehand. I mean, if he's begging the question of a globe and he's talking about angles, the elevation angles off the surface of that globe, like begging the question is not proof of anything. Elevation angles with a curved adjacent is obviously not proof of anything. Can't do that. He's agreeing that nautical miles are minutes of degree. He's agreeing the statute miles are measurement along the surface of the Earth. I don't see what could be in it after 6 minutes. What special stuff is there? You know what I mean? Thanks for playing it, Nathan. By the way,
minutes,
but
or 3,453.338 statute miles of surface distance. But a more well-known term when referring to navigators' minutes is nautical miles.
Well, that brings up a couple of questions. Number one, where can I find a citation for the term navigator's minutes? Or is that just something you made up?
That's just something I just made up. I just put it in there. It's just a description, and it describes it perfect. What's wrong with it? I don't need the citation for that. I'm not claiming science.
The question's rhetorical. Don't bother answering. Obviously, this is just a case.
Let me get it straight. A really important point that you're asking is a rhetorical question, Blue. That's what I was so terrible and a coward for not playing. Your rhetorical question that didn't need answering at 6:37 after a bit of Brian. So far we're up to about 40 seconds of fluff that means nothing. That's what we were cowards for not playing.
Case of flat earthers wanting to rename something that's well understood, like nautical miles.
So an ad hom. Oh, we're such cowards for not playing your ad hom.
But here's a serious question.
Oh, I see. So at 6 minutes 45, we're getting our serious question after your fluff and non sequitur, followed by an ad hom. I see. So why not 7 minutes then?
How was that sky distance measured in the sky without reference to the ground, Brian?
It's not. It's measured against a flat baseline.
Oh, what an idiot.
How is it measured without reference to the ground? What, like you need to do because your ground's bending? Maybe reverse the burden. Ask us how you're going to get around this tricky situation where you need a flat baseline. That would be what it is being measured against. So ask us how it's not being measured against no baseline, no ground. Yeah, they don't do that, Blue. Maybe ask us a non sequitur question in an attempt to reverse the burden because you've got the tricky, awkward situation of a curved adjacent being needed as your ground. Yeah, we just measure it flat. Like an angle would be with a flat baseline like the tool suggests. How would we do it without that? We wouldn't. But that's your problem, Blue.
I'll tell you what, though. While you ponder those two questions, you got a big problem.
While I ponder them? No, I ripped your arse through your throat after hearing it. You asking me how I'd measure it without a flat baseline? No, I definitely need a flat baseline, and so do you. So asking me how I'm going to get around your tricky problem, while I ponder it, I didn't need any time to ponder it.
Well, it seems
This
to
is
me when he was
Polaris, over the North Pole. We know that each degree of latitude is 60 nautical miles. You guys even agree with that.
So, let me get it straight. He called us cowards because we didn't play from 6 minutes. We're up to 7 minutes, 8 seconds. And we've got absolutely nothing other than him asking us how we'd measure an angle without the ground being flat. Yeah, we wouldn't, but that's not our problem. It's yours. So, go ahead, Brian. I'm done. We've done what he requested.
Yeah, no, I thought when he said that, when he referenced, I thought when he said about how would you measure the sky without along the sky without knowing about the ground, I thought he was referencing the Nautical Almanac. I just said, well, use the almanac then to find out where it is. Like, but the distance. I mean, the question was kind of bizarre, but I think maybe you were on the right track that he was maybe begging the question. I don't know. I don't know what he was even asking there.
He's saying, how do you measure an angle to this star Polaris in his depiction if you haven't got this line that's flat along the ground? That's what he's asking. How do you do it without that line? You wouldn't, but that's your globe Earth problem, you complete clown.
He's asking, how do you measure a straight line in a flat Earth, to me?
He's asking how you do it without that line. How do you do it without the ground? What, measure an angle? Well, you need that straight, flat baseline. That's what we're asking for in the housekeeping question. How would you have that, yeah, if you're measuring an elevation angle, that's this line? Well, you can't do that, Blue. That's the point. You can't do that. Asking us how we do it without the thing you need and is curved on your model, that's not going to fly. Yeah, you wouldn't have got away with reversing the burden of proof if you were in person either.
Sounds like he thinks that they're doing it on a globe. That's what he's thinking. It's being done on a globe, but it's not. It's being done on a flat Earth.
Yeah, and you know this citation thing for this navigator's minutes? That's a description. I made it up on the spot. I don't care if anyone knows I made it up. Of course I did. That's how I described it. It's true. They're navigator's minutes. Minutes of degree used by navigators.
It's not that you made it up. You used language. That's what you've done. Well, how come you cite your specific use of language in this regard? What are you talking about? People are navigating and they're measuring minutes in the sky. So putting those two words together without the fluff in between doesn't make it cite-worthy. What's he talking about?
Use language to communicate with us, Brian. I understood exactly what you meant.
Yeah, I just wanted to simplify it. And that simplified it. Navigator's minutes. That simplified it. Simplified it down to 1 for 1. Not one navigator's minute is 1 nautical mile. That's the whole point of the video.
Right.
I mean, so why would you want the citation for that? I don't know.
I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because he's majoring on the minors. You've used this weird phraseology I've never heard before. Go and cite it, because that's going to be the main crux of my... Hold on. What about the curved adjacent? Well, as for the curved adjacent, how would you measure an angle without the ground? What are you talking about? That's your problem.
Yeah.
They think that just by asking us our devastating question back to us, that somehow they take the win.
Yeah, wow. I mean, it is measuring on the minors with that nonsense. Like I've ignored that in chat. I've just completely ignored it. Every time I've been asked it, must be 30 times, 40 times, maybe more.
Really?
On those three videos. So give us a citation for this nautical mile or for this navigator's minute thing. So I can't find it anywhere. You know, every time I Google it, I can't find it. You know, I just ignore that.
Listen.
It's so obvious.
Nathan, can you? The best part of this is he did a video, and he put a picture. I had to go away for a minute or two, but I'm back. That picture of the sphere with the tangent plane on top, that line. Can you put that up again? That was the best thing you ever did right there. Thank you very much. Because this is what's great, is them making videos like this.
Yeah, it is pretty...
Oh, I meant to...
I've got it up. It's at 8 minutes and 1 second, or thereabouts.
Yeah, well, I have to go by memory because I'm not looking at it, but it looks just like all the rest. They got this baseline on top of the sphere, or circle, actually, not even a sphere. And then they've got something in the center where they say they're getting their angle measured. But we all know that the sextant has never made it to the molten iron core. It would have melted by then. So the whole point is you're taking the measurement from the surface of the Earth to acquire an angle, and you need a flat baseline. And to dip or not to dip, that is the correction, proves it. Because... what is it saying?
1 sec.
You need a flat baseline.
Just 1 sec. Citation police.
Oh, I did it on the Mitchell show.
No.
I'm
saying
every citation.
No. Stop. Citation police Discord member. Yeah, you sat right next to your mic. You're in a live show. Not a live show, but a recorded show. You're flicking paper with your mic wide open. Citation police yet to respond to me. Citation police. 3rd time. So don't respond, just stick yourself on mute. Good enough, I suppose. Go ahead, 10th.
Yeah, so basically the sextant is an angle measuring device. They're doing it from the surface of the Earth. The surface has to be flat. You got to have that baseline from the GP. They are avoiding 90 degree. They are avoiding right angle, and they're avoiding triangle. They've been from the beginning going against it. And yet when you look in their own books, when you use the sextant, you never minus it from 180. You never minus it from 160. You never minus it from 40. You minus it from 90. Always from 90. What's a 90? It's a perpendicular square box.
Right, I'm just going to draw that.
Flat baseline.
I'm going to draw that box. So in his diagram, this is Blue Marble's diagram, from the line called Zenith, who's on. Can you put yourself on mute, whoever that is in G+, while I'm doing this? I can't go and put you on mute. Zenith.
Oh, sorry.
In Blue Marble's diagram, from Zenith to position of measurement. Someone's getting banned. Whoever that was in Discord, if I catch you, start again. From Zenith position to the measurement position on the ground to the GP at 90 versus the sky measurement in degrees. That is the box that has just been described to do this measurement on his diagram. Now that box lines up with the flat plane he must have to make this measurement, with the GP of Polaris at 90 degrees to it. That is how it's done. Now, to do it in that box requires this straight line. It does not require anything that is drawn below this line. Completely redundant. Not required. You only need this flat baseline. What for, you say? Well, to measure the angle Blue Marble measured when he talked about measuring an angle to Polaris. That would be this angle, requiring a flat baseline. And the description, when minusing 90 by 10th man, is a box I am now drawing around the zenith to Polaris from your position, down to the GP of Polaris and back to your position. That is a box with 90 degrees at the corners. Flat plane required. Blue Marble, where'd you get your angle to Polaris with a curved adjacent? Answer, you didn't. It's depicted here. I'm done.
Yeah, I actually I posted a screenshot that I meant to send you, 10th man, actually yesterday night. Yeah, there's a box right there. Just sitting there Googling Cartesian coordinate system. Look, there's a box.
In Master B? Did you post it?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll bring it up. Got it. Yeah, exactly. Perfect timing, Eli. Well done. So, as you can see on Eli's depiction, this is effectively, it's got Z on it, great. So that was where I referenced zenith out to GP of the star, back to the zenith, top of the position where you are. That's a box. So on top of his diagram, it would be here. A box. Flat plane required, first and foremost. Sod all to do with the sphere, second of all. Now he says, well, if I assume it's going to the centre from my zenith, you're going to need half of that. And if I assume that it's all going parallel, as we know it all is, you're going to need half of that. So why are you begging the question and utilising this complete redundant sphere below when the angle measurement's taken along this line? Answer, he needs it to be flat first before he can assume it's a sphere. Here's his flat baseline. Unlucky, Blue. Well done, Eli. That's a good diagram. Perfect timing.
Brilliant.
Thank you. Yeah, I was actually arguing with somebody on Facebook. One of the people that I first like in my circle of friends, and she never got past how do you navigate on a flat Earth? It's obviously a sphere, and I keep telling her they use a grid system, and that's when I was just like, what can I do to show her? And that's when I found the box. So.
Yeah, you should have contacted me. I could have got you those things.
When you showed her box, did she get it?
A box, no need.
No, she gave.
Nathan, how you pick up on that?
She sent the GIF that said, "Shut the f up."
So what was the main?
Yeah, she
what was
attacked
the
you.
main?
I love it.
What was the main thing? How do you navigate on flat Earth? Was her response? Is that what she said?
Yeah, that's her own, because she's like, I've flown around the world dozens of times.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Well, let me throw something out there then, Eli, and hopefully she'll hear this. Okay, there's two ways you can navigate. You can navigate using the latitude and longitude grid via the use of a sextant, right? That's the way we've been talking about, and was done for a long, long time on board ships and airplanes, right? This is how they navigate it. But you can also navigate, right, via Cartesian coordinates. And Cartesian coordinates are used by surveying, cartography makes maps, militaries, and aerospace. So when she's flying around the world, as she puts it, right, what she's doing, what's actually happening is they're following what's known as northeast down. On the surface of the Earth, Cartesian coordinates are east, north, up. But airlines do it opposite, so there's no mix-up with the coordinates. They don't mix up ground coordinates with the coordinates they're supposed to have, and they have northeast down. So they're always referencing a grid. That's what they do. If they use a thing called spherical coordinates, but spherical coordinates use tangent planes. So, and while you're on the tangent plane, right? Basically, a tangent plane is a flat horizontal line on a spherical surface. So what happens is that the spherical surface is pre-assumed, but the navigation happens on the flat horizontal line. And when you leave that horizontal line, you go on to another one, and then another
Stop
one,
a second.
and another one.
Stop. So you're saying airliners work it off tangent planes, and therefore when you're actually doing the navigation and you're maintaining a level altitude, level flight, you're working off one tangent plane. But then you go onto a different section of the grid, and that's a different tangent plane. Am I right so far? There's a further question.
Yeah, it's one tangent plane to the next. You're never not referencing a tangent plane.
Fine. So at the transition stage, this is disco ball Earth. Lots and lots of flat planes on a sphere. This is a disco ball that you're describing, just so everyone in the audience can visualize what we're talking about. When you reach an edge of a tangent plane, does it in any way, shape or form tell the navigator that he needs to then reaccount for the accumulated drop that he hasn't negotiated because he's been doing it on a flat disco ball at that stage? Does he have to go over the edge and then recorrect for the new tangent plane?
No, there's none of that happens. It's like he's going across a tiled floor.
So it's like he's going across a tiled flat floor with lots of square grids, exactly as the navigation suggests, because it is a flat grid system. But the reasoning behind it being labelled as a tangent plane is that actually those grids are bending around a sphere. We just never account for the accumulation of drop and an angle that would be induced at the edge of each tangent plane. They don't account for that. It's actually just travelling over a flat grid. Correct?
Yes, exactly. Yeah,
I see.
And they're actually using, rather than even just squares, if they're using GPS, they're using three-dimensional. So there's actually cubes from cube to cube to cube.
Well, sounds only fitting that they would use a flat tangent plane in a Cartesian coordinate system and then call it spherical coordinates.
Yeah, all they do is they take the zenith of that coordinate system that goes to the center of, let's say, the center of that tangent plane, and they bring that zenith to the center of a pre-assumed globe. And they do that with all the zeniths, so it becomes a mathematical thing. So they mathematically have a globe via diverging the zeniths, but it's only mathematical because all of the navigation is done across from square to square to square. So all the zeniths in reality are parallel, but mathematically in spherical coordinates they're diverging.
I see.
Just
So
like
just
like geodesics, basically.
No, not like geodesics, no. Not fourth dimensional, no. A box grid system that is traversed in a manner that doesn't account for any drop. The inference being that, in spite of the fact that each of the disco ball surfaces are completely flat, and you don't have to renegotiate an accumulation of the drop that isn't there, you just navigate it flat. Well, describing it as having a tangent plane doesn't mean that you have actually got to account for drop. So it's a way of describing it flat, on a large individual basis, square by square, Have it on a grid flat for you to actually navigate it, but drop in the word tangent, inferring that that flat grid that has no drop to negotiate is actually wrapped around a sphere. Not geodesics, are we? No. Why is it every time a curve that's awkward and doesn't prove we're on a sphere is described as flat, you immediately go to geodesics, fourth dimensional bending space-time? Like, that's going to save this argument for an anti-flat earther.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to be anti-flat earthish or Baldwinish. It's just that geodesics is one of like those things that is actually based on flat data that is then suggested to have some kind of curvy proof. And it seems like it wasn't the only medium that does it. It's being done on a wide range of different coordination systems.
This is bendizontal as opposed to geodesics. It's three-dimensional bending straight lines. You're travelling across lots of flat surfaces, but saying they're linked together in a curve. They're just lots of flat surfaces linked together in a curve. Just saying it doesn't mean it's so, and just saying it means that you can travel over a flat plane, and the pilot can look at it and go, oh, well, these are spherical coordinates, though, on a flat grid that we're actually flying over.
Yeah, right. If anyone wants to know, you cannot have a grid using squares and cubes, two-dimensional squares or three-dimensional cubes. You cannot have adjoining squares or cubes as a grid reference system on a consistently curving surface. You can't do that because all the dimensions change. So for that system to work, for Cartesian coordinates to work, then all the dimensions have to stay equal. So each time you leave one coordinate system, you have to be going into the next one that's exactly equal in dimensions to the last one, to the one ahead of it, to the one to the sides of it, and to the fourth at its corners. So you can't not have everything being all the same dimension. Whereas on a consistently curving surface, it warps all the dimensions. So if Cartesian coordinates work and people can navigate via Cartesian coordinates along the surface of Earth, then the Earth cannot be a sphere. We know Cartesian coordinates work and they're used all the time, so that means the Earth cannot be a sphere.
Okay, if this was the Black Swan, they'd bark refraction at us. I don't know if he's around or if QE's still around to jump down his throat, but Extremesis, you typically in the past have been able to rattle off whatever the standard form globe Earth or anti-flat Earth rebuttal would be. Do you know what it is in this regard, or has there not been one developed yet? If you're around. You there, Extremesis?
I don't know what it is.
That's what I thought you'd say. Fine. I don't think there is one yet. There is no standard form refraction equivalent.
You can't have it. There is no way to have a grid that is squares and cubes that are adjoining that have to be the same dimensions as each other on a consistently curving surface. You can't do that. You can have a horizontal baseline with elevations using the cubes system, the three-dimensional cube system, or you can have a flat map with the square system on it. Like you can see it in Google Earth. They use a tile system. It can be done with rectangles. It can be done with squares. But the whole point is, it all has to be this. Each section has to be the same dimensions as all the other sections. But that can't happen on a sphere because it warps it. So there can never be a globe Earth version. Like they can't. There isn't anything. That's why there isn't one. That's why Extremis says he doesn't know of one, because it doesn't exist. It can't.
Well, let's throw it out to anybody. Does anybody know of what would be the standard? I mean, I suppose we'd be just hearing it, right? If people believed, like they did with refraction, that it wasn't the annihilation of their claim in the first instance and stopped them getting R, they'd be barking at us, or barking it at us. What? But they're not. What are they barking at us? Nothing. Telling us, how'd you get an angle if you haven't got a straight line? Flat earthers. That's the best we've got so far from Blue. A reversal of the burden of proof, asking us how we'd do his difficult problem. Well, you wouldn't. That's our point. Other than that, that's it. Or what's the other one we've had from from Bob the Science Guy? Well, if I use an artificial horizon, I don't even need dip. I can just assume we've got a nice square flat box with parallel top and bottom.
This is brilliant.
Well, avoiding the realization of the detailed issues is the only way for an anti-flat earther to continue. In my meager attempt as Baldwin, I can find a rebuttal and just say, look, you say that the grid of every Cartesian square has to fit perfectly. Well, that's just because you don't understand, right? It's all being measured like a globe, and the horizon is geometric, or that's how it is put together, even though optically it's flat, etc., etc. And it's just like, no, you're just wrong about the squares having to fit perfectly. You're just wrong.
Nobody said that, though. Nobody said that. Nobody said.
I know the rebuttal.
Hold on, Brian. Just one sec. Nobody said that yet, Arwin. No one said the squares don't have to fit together in this grid square block system that's all linked together, flat plane underneath it. No one's saying, or no one has said yet, I know you're postulating that's what they could say, that, well, they don't have to fit together correctly, as absurd as that might be. We've had nothing. We've literally had nothing. Asking us how to solve the problem was Blue Marble's best stab at it, and Bob saying you don't need to do any dip correction, the only thing that they can or could have claimed by way of a little switcheroo was to do with globe Earth. That's what we've had so far.
For the Cartesian, as far as Cartesian coordinates go, the only rebuttal that they have, I already addressed with spherical coordinates, and that is that there is diverging zeniths. But diverging zeniths makes the claim of Cartesian coordinates impossible, because it also would mean that airplanes would be flying along a flat plane, then they'd have to do a big correction with pitch and fly down another flat plane.
Exactly.
All this kind of nonsense.
Exactly, that's why I asked you. I was like, when they get to the edge of the tangent plane, which is what you'd have if it was actually on a sphere, you'd have this accumulation of drop. So yeah, okay, you say you just navigate it flat because it's easier for a given area. But at some point, if it's spherical, that builds up. Now, the way it builds up in mathematics, when you draw this out, is the disco ball with an edge. So have you got to, suddenly drop around the sphere to match you with the next tangent plane? No, of course you haven't. It's just flat all the way.
It just stretches up like a balloon, right? The ground is like rubber, so it might seem like you measured a perfect square, but it's actually all really stretchable like a ball.
No, even they won't come up with that, Arwen.
I just did.
It's easier to.
They know that's unworkable.
It's easier to think outside the box when you know the box is nonsense, Arwen.
You are glue. I am rubber. It can be a ball.
Okay, right, nice try. Whoever that was, go ahead.
Yeah, they could say that navigation is done with flat maps, and on a flat map you can easily make squares and boxes. So
that'd be our argument. That'd be our argument.
Because navigation is done on a flat map.
Yeah, that is our argument.
I know, but that's just squaring the circle, right?
No, that's squaring the square. So no. And further to that, I don't know if it's in the pre-show and you weren't around, Roger, but 10th Man actually put up, I'm going to see if I can find them now, in, where was it? I believe Master B, some comments from people saying similar things. So I'm going to go and get that back up and go through it now with you so I can give you a comparative argument. 10th Man, incredibly, doesn't understand that subtracting the dip from the sextant angle regarding results in elevation angle to the star from the eye level or horizontal plane at the observer. He still thinks it brings the reading down to the surface, lol. So this is a glober telling us that you've got to get an elevation angle with a horizontal plane. But he's wrong, he's an idiot. He doesn't understand that his argument confirms how flat it is.
Right. Glober's telling us, you don't even realize how flat it really is. You're so stupid.
Exactly. You don't know how flat it really is, do you? You don't realise that minusing it off gives you a flat elevation angle and horizontal plane. Oh, what kind of stupid idiot doesn't know how flat it is when you measure an angle? That's what this guy's saying, it's 10th. So it is unbelievable how great this argument is. Thank you, Roger.
Let me add to longitude, latitude. There's no place like the ocean where there's no landmarks. So they have to use the lighthouses in the sky, as it's referred to, the celestial navigation. So what they've done is they have a book that tells you where these navigational stars are that the mariners use and pilots with bubble sextants, etc. And they have formed a grid, longitude and latitude over open ocean, and minutes in between and seconds, so you know an exact location if need be. And those stars are over those points, and they're in the nautical almanac. And that's why a sextant reading is getting the angle to that star. And you say, okay, it's this angle. You look up in the book and do the math. You find out you're 2,400 miles somewhere on a circle. That's the radius of that one circle of equal altitude. And it's, I mean, if you got all these stars in the sky and you've got straight lines, longitude, latitude, and you can know exactly which one it's over at the exact time, moment, and second, that's the navigation. That's why you need those longitude, latitude lines. Now, the globers say those longitude, latitude lines are on a sphere, and the longitude lines converge at the poles. That's what they say. But then that would make the sextant irrelevant, because sextant can't work on a globe. So they're in for a hurt here.
Anybody from Discord got any comment on this? Anybody want to share their pain? Speak now or forever hold your... No, not really. We'll be discussing this at length. Anybody at all?
Is this happening recently? Oh shit! So
No, that's okay. It does. Is this recent? Yes and no. So 10th Man's been dripping us this information in the pre-show. If you're not subscribed to my second channel, you might not have realised this, but in almost all the pre-shows for the last 12 months, we've been discussing this. But in little bits and bobs, little pieces of information here and there. In the last maybe month or two, 10th Man's gone on to the live show with actual presentations, because he's been showing us the information and it's kind of naturally turned into a presentation. And it actually, for the first time, became a presentation when someone challenged it. And on the spot, 10th Man presented the information. And it was in the same form he'd been doing it in bits and pieces. So it became a full presentation. And then Bob the Science Guy was the first to walk into the sextant trap in regards to using an artificial horizon which doesn't require any dip correction, only a flat plane and parallel to the sky that you're measuring, with angles and straight lines and flat planes. So from that point of view, in terms of its dissemination onto the masses, if you will, it's fairly recent. In terms of, last but not least, I will get there, the most recent is the housekeeping question, which is there any evidence you can have a curved adjacent whilst acquiring an elevation angle? That would be to say, can you have a curved line when you're measuring two straight lines, in simplistic terms? So that's the thing that is new. That's a week old. Hope that answers your question. Anybody else?
Want the full story?
If you want.
Yeah. On purpose, it was designed this way. The grand finale will prove it, but we're not near that. I saw Mitchell go after it after 8 months of research. He was the first one to put that much time into it. So I contacted Mitchell and I said, look, they're not going to come onto Nathan's show, and I need the sextant trap to work because there's many layers to it. And he and I struck an agreement that he would say certain things on his show that would cause him to go make videos. They did. They got caught. And I mean, I would have done it here, but they won't come to your show. So I used Mitchell with his permission. He was happy to do it. So he purposely infused sentences in his shows that made them go do things we wanted them to do. And they did it. They're on record of doing it. We've got the recordings, and it's just the beginning. The grand finale of this show, of this sextant trap, will be glorious. I can't reveal it, what that entails, but it's not anything anybody expects. In the meantime, every day I'm here 5 days a week on Nathan's, obviously, and it was done on purpose, the way it was done. And I like the way it's going. People are digging into it on their own. We're going to have a bunch of people doing what I did, and it's just going to be like a tsunami.
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching, no, it's the end of the show. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hitting the PayPal link, joining as a member, and all that good stuff. Also, below this video, you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is of particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a day! What a lovely day!